about today on Hyde practice?
Bored?
Yeah, I know, isn't it?
Bored.
Bored. Tell me about bored.
So bored.
Like, why? Why are we
Just
bored about the art world? Are we bored about the art world?
I'm bored about the art world. I'm bored about I was talking to somebody else about this the other day. I'm bored about the conversation, and I understand that, like, the world's on fire and everything's terrible, and, there are multiple genocides, and DEI is rolled back, and there's no funds for anything, and, galleries are closing, and all of it is horrible. But nobody's talking about art. They're
What do
talking
you
about
mean?
I feel like no one's talking about art. I feel like everyone's talking about spectacle or economics. And I think that's what's so boring. Like when I hear about like Frieze and the galleries and the fairs, it's like none of it seems to be about like what the art is. It's like this is the most Instagrammed thing, or this is the most sold thing, or this is the highest price thing that moved. And I feel like that's all very boring to me. Maybe I'm not reading the right things. Maybe I need to read more like art writers or something. I'm not reading everything I'm reading is economics. Everything I'm reading is like even like with Venice, it's like the spectacle of it and like whether it was like impactful enough to get like on the gram. And like the conversations I hear around the pieces, it just doesn't feel interesting.
I think I don't know. What is interesting? I don't
No.
know. Do you also think that partly this is like a reflection of us?
Yes.
And like we've done the circuits for a while.
Yes.
And so we kind of know what the circuits look like and we're hoping for something that might be this is the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I really do. I've been, like, really, like, looking backwards a lot lately of, like, the things that I wanted and, like, how I have my own tendency to move the goalposts of, like, my goals and, like, what's interesting to me to, like, keep me pushing forward with some kind of compulsive, like, Protestant work ethic, like, rooted in capitalism and patriarchy, if we're gonna be honest. But, like, yeah, like, there was a time, like, not that long ago when, like, I would've, my entire kingdom to go to freeze, and now I'm like, "Oh." I don't wanna go. I don't wanna figure that out, Like, I have the opportunities, I've got the tickets, I know the people there, and I'm like, "I don't wanna go," Like, there's an Alexis from not that long ago who would just be slapping me, just 10 years ago. Like, "What do you mean you're not gonna go to the fairs? What do you mean you've got the opportunity and you don't?" You know?
Okay, so what changed? What do you think changed?
I mean, I do think some of it is that I've gone. I've gone to a lot of the fairs and I've seen a lot of the stuff, and there aren't interesting conversations happening there like I thought there was. Like, there was an expectation of inclusion and, being a part of something to going to those things that now, the truth is they're just trade fairs. Um, and I thought that, like, I would be different if I went, and I think that, like, I've missed enough things also that I realized that, like, nothing changes, like, it's fine if I miss 1, it's fine if I miss 10. If I go to the next one, it's cool or it's not cool, it doesn't really matter, like, none of it really matters, in, like, a real way because it is just like a trade fair, and I think that, like, for the fair circuit, but also, like, nothing new is happening either, like, we're not Hi, Emma, we're talking about the art world, we're not like, what new is there to even happen? I think maybe that's it, it's like my focus of, like, what's interesting and has shifted, and
I think that's like
that's a
multiple
getting older
things. No,
thing.
well, I think it's getting older thing. I think it's also that like 10 years ago, I think
Mhm.
where we were in our careers trying to break in, trying to be relevant, trying to go and make sense of what was happening is very different to where it is now economically. And I think that, yeah, it's boring, but I think like a lot of that really kind of reflects on what was happening. So, like,
Yeah.
even if I looked at, say, like 10 years ago, so 2016, which is right when I had left, um, or was leaving Hong Kong to
Yeah,
start my PhD. And, I didn't know at the time when I was in Hong Kong, it was considered like the right place at the right time. There were like the golden years where it was booming. So we're
yeah,
talking about like 20 so I really got back into the art world about 2013, 14.
yeah,
And then I was there, and then I was doing like, because by the time I was leaving, I was already in the system for like a little bit in Hong Kong. And so I think it was like a very different experience where because of the PhD, I like had to go to the fairs. Like there was a reason that I had to show up because I had to go and collect data and I was analyzing the market. I was right. Like, and I think it was a very different time where things were booming, people were taking more risks. The economy didn't have to be talked about as significantly as we do now.
yeah.
And so it's not boring because it's not constantly a reminder of how tough things are. It's not a constant reminder of that we're selling the things that we think is going to sell.
Yeah, I think that's and I think also it's like, yeah, it's not relevant to what I'm doing right now
Mm,
in a real way.
mm,
The only parts that are like I don't have any clients that are shopping big. I don't have any like or that I have to go to a fair for, like I've got people who are shopping, but it's not fair specific. And so like when I do go to the fairs, it's to see my friends and say hi and like, get something for TikTok or whatever just for fun. Um, but it's not yeah, it's not relevant to what I'm doing right now in a real way. And except for in like a very pure, like supportive of my colleagues way, to say hi, say you're doing great, booth looks great, putting in FaceTime that way. And that's fun and that's great. And I know that it's appreciated, but also like there's so much happening. It's not like a huge deal if I miss it. But I do wonder, I'm sure I would feel very different if I had. Like I have friends who've got like big clients, right? That are they have to they're like already planning like their shows that they have to see in New York because this is what their clients are interested in. And like it's part of the job and it is more interesting that way. So maybe that is part of it. But I do think that like the conversations around it has switched so strongly to the economics of it that has clouded a lot. Um, and I think that because the economics are what is talked about and like that's what gets the airtime, then like that's what gets the airtime. Like it just the other things just it doesn't matter what the art is that's selling. It matters that the art is selling. And I think that is sad and
maybe
limited.
maybe I wonder, like, if it's, like, the signaling of confidence in the market and that the requirement of that signal has now sort of, like, changed the dynamic of what you see. Because it's like in order it's like, I want to say to you that things are fine. So the only way that I can tell you things are fine is just like, look at all the things that are moving. Look at how like much we're selling. And then you're just like, okay, great. And then there's other conversations as well.
Right. But I think that like that's the thing is that like and I think I don't know. I mean, this could be just I'm getting old and like the things that I focused on like when I was younger are different and like I'm not reading those things anymore or like the conversations are different because I am older and like it is more economical than it was when it was like how can we get this show up or do this kind of art. But I think, it is because it's not the art world anymore. They talk about the art market. So it's only a market now. So it is what's important, what's selling. And there isn't like, and the spectacle of it has shifted. And the way we, the art world's approaching it is also different. Cause it's like interesting. I think about fashion. like, as a parallel to the art world a lot just because of, like, the creative endeavors of it, and, like, obviously, like, you and I both know that the fashion world is brutal, like, so brutal, and, like, even if you're doing, like, the designer of Chanel, like, your schedule of what you have to produce at the levels you have to produce is
Yeah, it's
insane, and
crazy.
it has
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
driven
It's
people
back to
to.
back. Yeah, 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 for
Yeah,
sure.
and, but along with that, there is the expectation of a team. There is the expectation of the spectacle of it, of like a show, and that everybody knows that the way they really make money is by selling boring purses and lipsticks. And that I think is interesting because like we're not when they talk about the economics of fashion, they're talking about the lipsticks and and the purses, but they're not talking about the couture.
Mhm.
And I feel like we haven't found that balance yet in the art market and the art world of like, this is the importance of the art and this is the importance of the market. Because again, there is this like insane gatekeepy, snobby standard of it all has to be couture all the time. Whereas, like, and then we don't talk about the people who are making prints, or we don't talk about the people who are making the work that is affordable, that can afford them to be making these big spectacles all the time. It's like you want the artists to be able to do something incredible and next level for the Whitney Biennale. And forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. I get all my biennales mixed up. But like, but then we don't talk about the how like they can actually afford to do that. Um, or like what could support that outside of like they just need to like suck it up and it's for exposure and the shows will come later. Or, like the economics are so broken, especially with like the lack of funding in the arts. But at the same time, things are going for more than ever. And the reality of being an artist at a young age means that your prices have to be higher so you can afford to live because of cost of living. But it's interesting because I think that like there is a balance to be struck. And I feel like there was a time when it was like so much more art focused and we didn't talk about the economics of it. And now we've kind of swung into this like mostly the economics of it, but not even in like a practical way and just like a pie in the sky. This Sotheby's sold $1 billion last month way. And that's not that doesn't even what does that have to do with the price of milk? You know what I mean? Like, because what's happening at Sotheby's last week, yes, it's an indication of like the strength of a market, but it's not even because it's just a handful of people who are bored and auctioning off with, funny money. That doesn't have to do with any of the galleries or the collecting or the institutions in like a real way. Um, and, like, I get it. Like, I love, the emotions and the gambling factor of, like, an auction house and, like, the access and the urgency is, like, totally fabulous. And I love an auction. But, like, also, like, it doesn't have anything it's so its own world, it's, like, not even relevant.
No, I think everything is trying to go and signal like confidence because everyone's like so concerned right now. I think that's like
Yeah.
a way, and it may or may not be working. I did see
Well, I
something
think
last night.
well, I think that's the thing, though. I think exactly what you just said, though, is, like, everybody's so concerned. Everybody's so scared that nobody can make good decisions, and that is across all of the fronts. Nobody's making good decisions when it comes to what they're putting out in like press in a lot of times because they're like they're so desperate for clicks and like not going under as a press thing. They don't want to not sell out their booth at freeze, so they've got to play it safe. They want to have, the biggest, they've got to match up what happened last year at Sotheby's, so they've got to, get the big, it's just like it's all rooted in fear. And that's not creation.
Or there is creation, but it's not
Is
being
there?
picked up. I don't know. Right? I think partly is also like businesses are in a very awkward position that they feel like I need the clicks, I need the likes, I need the
Right.
whatever. And then so it becomes this like really um kind of like toxic cycle that goes
Right.
nowhere. I
Yeah.
do on occasion, I do see the writings about like some of the things that you had just said, like what happens when you do get picked to go to the Venice Biennale?
Right.
So like there I don't even know where this like showed up, but I think this is like one of like maybe cultured or observed, I don't know what it was, talking about I now am gonna represent the Canadian booth or the Canadian pavilion. And, like, for anyone who's, like, listening to this and they don't know what the Venice Biennale is, it's often referred to the Olympics of the art world because you represent your own country and that it is in Venice and it happens every 2 years, and that it's a really big deal, right? Because you are representing your country for art.
Right.
And, the Canadian pavilion, he's putting on this show. And it was sort of talking about like, well, what happens? Like how difficult it is for you to get selected. What how difficult it is that, you might consider this as a pinnacle of your career and then sort of like you also don't actually know how it's gonna change or not change your career after. Right. And I think some people do talk about some of those things. It's not often that I see that. I do find that it's like it's a little bit more transparency.
Well, they do. No, I mean, I'm seeing those things too, but I'm seeing them in like context of like it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard. Like I'm fronting the money. I have to
yeah,
raise the money and like whatever. And like and this is a difficult burden actually to like have this opportunity and or to get this whatever show or like whatever. And I do get that, but I mean it's different than like I think the part is that there's nobody's coming up with any solutions. And I think that's the part that's really hard for me is that everybody talks about how difficult it all is without looking at the issues that are making it difficult, including our own actions and like our own complicity in the cycles. Um, and everybody's really happy to complain and nobody's happy to step up. And I don't know what stepping up would look like, and I'm, like, literally understand that I'm also simultaneously complaining about something and not stepping up, but my solution is that, like, we're not is to focus on other things, like, if we just keep focusing on, you know, either the gatekeeping aspects of it or the failures without looking at, like, the 15 galleries I can name off the top of my head that are just chugging along fine, you know? Like, we don't need to know every single sale they're making to know that there's like they're going ahead, but we don't talk about that because it's boring. It's more fun that this person, closed, but then they don't ask the questions. Well, why did they close? They don't talk to people in the neighborhood being like, hey, like nobody called me when Marion Goodman closed and was like, hey, did they ever invite you to one show? You know, that your director left 4 years ago. Did they ever reassign you? Did they ever reach out? No. And it's like the same thing for like the art fairs, and it's like, well, like why is everybody bringing the boring art? And it's like, well, because the booths are so expensive and they're afraid to like lose money. And like we can't afford to lose money anymore because the cost of living is so high. And all the prices for the emerging artists are higher, and I want to shake the collectors who are complaining about it and being like, yeah, because everything is more expensive now. So everything, of course, the emerging artist that you like isn't $2,000 anymore. It's $15,000, and you don't want to pay that, and that's fine. You don't. You don't pay it then. But it's not weird that it's $15,000 instead of $2,000 when you started your collecting career 15 years ago. Um, and you know, it's there's no like comprehensive views, and like also, like, it doesn't yeah, like, and I know that it doesn't get clicks to talk about art on art paper in, like, a real way, they wanna talk about this heist or this fire in Brazil or, this director got hired or fired at the museum, and it's not exciting to talk about, like, art online, but
Like art
I
for
don't know.
art's sake.
Yeah, art for art's sake, and I guess maybe that's the thing. Maybe I'm bored because that's just what I'm interested in now. Like, I feel like I've been through so many cycles of I'm just, like, exhausted. Like, all of the news is so bad, like, I can't have the art news be bad also. I need to, like, because also I think that's the other thing is it's not only am I bored by it, I'm, like, offended because there are artists out here and gallerists and museums putting on good shows that we're not talking about because we're too distracted by somebody who made bad business decisions,
Also, I think
you
our
know?
attention span is like very limited. I don't I don't know if you see that you do this. Like I definitely do this. Like I will have something on, like on my computer, and then but
Yeah,
I'll still be on my phone with something else on. And it's like
yeah,
simultaneously like two things are happening at once and I'm like paying to none
right.
of it. Not you know what I mean?
But I think it's because it's all boring. Because none of it's actually interesting. Because I can sit there and I can watch, like, people are like, "Oh, the TikTok, like, is whatever." I will watch a fucking 15-part story that is literally, like, an hour and 20 minutes of somebody telling me a story about their ex-husband on TikTok and not blink once, you know? And it's like, because that's interesting storytelling. I will watch a good movie. I will read a good book. I will do the one thing if it's good. I'm not watching the show and on my phone at the same time because either of these things are good. It's because both of them are kinda boring, and I'm not, like, intrigued, you know? Like, I think I look back it's so funny actually because 'cause I'll look at, like, the shows that I've been to recently that I've really liked. I don't have photos in my camera roll
Mm.
because I was engaged. I was engaged, I was having a good time, I was interested, I was there, I was focused. Same thing with, like, if I'm out with, like, friends or something, you know? Like, I don't have any pictures of the nights that I was having a good time. 'Cause I'm, like, actually, like, locked in. All the pictures I have are of times that I was, like something was, like, mediocre. So I think it's actually I think it's the other way around. It's not because we don't have attention spans, it's because nothing's actually holding our attention. Because it can hold our attention, and we see people have their attention held, and it just isn't in the ways that we would like it to be, but the ways that we would like it to be are not holding our attention in an interesting way because reading a bunch of fucking numbers about what happened with a bunch of the 1% of the 1% at Sotheby's last week is not interesting to more than like 10 people, but people want to look at the big numbers, so then they look at it. I don't know. I'm in a mood.
A
I'm
little
drinking
bit.
decaf coffee.
A little bit.
A little bit, a little bit. I'm in a mood. Um, I am drinking decaf though. I cut out the caffeine. I don't know. I'm bored. I'm bored. And I think that's the other thing is I feel like because everything's gotten so monotonous and boring and like the same, I feel like that's actually where there's like so much space to start like shaking things up again. And I want someone to do that. I want some people to be doing that. I like to think that I'm doing that in little ways, but I think that there are people in better positions than I am to be doing it in bigger ways.
No, I think it's important to do it in little ways, though. No.
Lead by example.
Like, I don't think I'm doing it in any way.
I think you are.
I am not.
I think we are just even by talking right now. I think this is a small way for our four people.
Oh, thank you. But I think also I do, to some extent, I feel like the shows often blur together with me. Like I look
Yeah.
and it's just like, didn't I just see something so similar? And nothing
Yeah.
sort of grabs my attention. Like, and I also get the opposite as well, where I listen to so many things about information, maybe the information just generally about the world, how AI is progressing, like different
Yeah.
things. And so, like, my brain is so full of stuff that, like, I
Yeah.
also don't feel like I have bandwidth for other things. So, I'm looking for like that one thing that is different. Like, for example, like if I'm going to see a whole bunch of shows, And a lot of things sort of have a tendency to blur together because it's like I'm walking in to see another painting show. And, like, sometimes I differentiate it by, like, the canvas because it's a different shape. So then I, like, remember it because it's just a different shape, not because of what's being explored, right? This is partly what
Yeah.
like, I and it's just I'm pretty sure it's because, like, there's so much crap inside my head that, like, I have to be really cognizant. Um I don't sometimes you see some of, like, these really conceptual shows and you're like, "What's happening in here?" Or like, "Hey,
Yeah.
like, really use
Yeah.
the brain," right? And so it's like, I walk in and it's like, "What am I expecting to see?" Which is, like, sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know
Yeah.
how to get in, like, quite frankly. Sometimes I'm like, "Is this
Yeah.
show like, are there more upstairs or downstairs? Or is it just, like, here?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'm, like, just confused.
Well, and I think that's another part too, is it's like people aren't thinking about that kind of stuff also. And like I went to a show with a friend and we walk in, it was a beautiful, I mean, it's one of the more beautiful painting shows I've seen in a long time. And it was stuff on the walls, and then there were some vitrine kind of cases that had like ephemera in them. And we couldn't tell because they weren't really well labeled what the ephemera was. And then so you walk in and there's these two like L-shaped tables, right? So you walk into the center, and to the left, which is crazy to me, but to the very left on the left tip was an explanation of what was in
Oh, I see.
the tables. And it was like, okay, but like if you walk in and you go, and the desk for the front desk is on the right too. So it's like where am I going to get the information as a viewer to like see what it is to even get like a handle on the context? Like people aren't, I see where they were thinking left to right. This is how we read. We'll put the information on the far left and then they'll go this way. And it's like, okay, yes, but in the context of walking through a door, if the information's not right there, then like I don't know where to go, and I wouldn't have seen it all the way on the left because all the way over there it looks like just like another piece of ephemera that I don't understand what this is. Like it took a while before, and so it's like I'm confused. I'm like, I like, and so I feel like that's like there's so many times too. It's just like they're not thinking about things like comprehensively in a way of like how can I engage with my viewer, my visitor, and that to me is like, what's the point of this if you're not engaging with your viewer or visitor? Like, you can't just put things out that you're so familiar with, thinking that like everybody else is just going to get it. Like, you have to know that someone's walking in here and potentially a buyer at a gallery and a potentially like a member at a museum. Like, part of this is the education of it. Because, like, if it's a new artist to like LA, like, what are we doing? Or are you just speaking to the people who already know? And in which case, I don't ever want to hear you complaining about not getting new clients. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like these like little things and they just like all add up to like bad experiences.
Mm.
I don't know. But I I think that like that's part of it. And I think that like and I also think that like so much of it, and this is like just like getting older, what I yearn for now as a fucking lame ass late middle-aged lady is, you know, that excitement of having something like really like burning inside. I mean, like really like this is new, this is exciting, like the same way it was when I was fucking 25, because everything was new. Every art show was something new and exciting and like filling a part of my brain. And now that like whole so much of my brain is fucking stuffed that it's hard to find something new and cool and exciting that like gets me interested. And because I've seen so much. And it's not because anything's but like also like for 25-year-olds now, they're seeing all of it's like new stuff and they're like, "Oh my God."
I have to
It's like
say
so
though,
exciting
like,
for them.
I was in a conversation with somebody like in their 30, like early 30s or like 30. And all the stuff like
Mhm.
she's telling me about, like, I don't come across it social media, like, and I think this might be an algorithm thing, but like she's also going out, like she's dating and she's and I'm like, That seems very interesting, like, much more interesting than some of the stuff that I know about, right? And I think I don't
Yeah.
know if it's just like, I'm going back to the same things that I know, and you know what I mean? And I'm, like, doing the same thing over and over
Well,
and
exactly,
over
like,
again.
it's like I'm going to the same
Yeah,
galleries, I'm
yeah,
going to the
yeah,
same openings, the same people that
yeah.
I work with, and I'm like, this is my rut that I've gotten into, like, I used to, like, take time out of my day. Of course, I had more time out of my day to be able to do this and like go find new things and find new shows and, be in on that stuff. And my friends of friends were doing cool things. And now it's like, no, like we're all old and like running things and have kids. And, like it's just like, oh, like people are like, oh, are you, what's happening this week? And I'm like, oh, I've got to like put on my own show. So I'm not seeing anything. But then there's like this really cool plant sale that's happening at Mocha. And I'm like, well, that sounds like rad, but I can't go because I'm working. And I'm like really bummed about it actually. But it's like, oh, like now I hear about the new thing and it's a plant show at Mocha that I can't go to.
So I think that new things exist. I think it's just not in within what we know and we see. So what we're saying is that,
Yeah.
like if you're seeing things, you should actually just text us on like Instagram and
I know,
tell us
like
that
please
like
like just send me
right,
some
you know what I mean?
things.
Because I do see that there are things and maybe it's because like she's spending quite a lot of time in New York. So like she's sending me all these like accounts of like different shows to go to and different happenings, and I was just like, "Oh, like, I go to New York. How come I don't see any of these things?" And I think that I literally am the other day, I, like, ran out of time, and I didn't as per usual, I didn't do any research to go and see any of the shows, right? Right. See, this is the other problem. It's like I've run out of
I
time,
know.
and so, like, I default to wait on you because I'm like, "Alexis will help me." Right? See, this is also partly my problem because 'cause I'm bad at it, and so, like, if I remember to go and whatever, like, bookmark it on Instagram, then I do. If I don't, then I just ask her or you because, like, you get, like, the 50 million things. So, I did neither of these things, and I literally just defaulted to my, like, usual route in
Yeah.
Soho, Tribeca, Lower East Side to go and see the exact same galleries that I see every single time I go to New York, right? And it's just like, are those the only gallery like, I'm sure that it's not, because then the next week after I've left, I saw that somebody else went to a gallery that I've never heard of in the
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm pretty sure this is, like, a me problem, right? And it's
Well, it is because it does become a you problem, but like the you problem is also is that like our jobs are more demanding now. We have less like time to do stuff than we used to when we were 25 and like underemployed and like working like bullshit jobs. Like I was a receptionist at Richard Meier. Like I had so much time to see what was happening in LA and like read every press release and every blog post by anybody who was doing something. And I just don't
Mm.
have those kinds of hours anymore. Speaking of, I gotta go.
Okay.
I love you. Bye,
Bye, you
guys.
too.